I can't wait to tell you about weight vests and weight loss. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? My name is Michael Sahno, and welcome to the Sea and Land Fitness Podcast, the podcast of professional tactical fitness. This podcast, hey, I got to get through this, pay the bills. This podcast is, of course, brought to you by Sea and Land Fitness, the home of professional tactical fitness. Head on over to www.sandlfit.com and see what we can do for you. Check out our stores and get some of our branded merchandise, like the hat I'm wearing right now. What's up? This podcast is also brought to you by new sponsors, Condor Outdoor, makers of some of the best tactical gear on the planet, plate carriers, gun belts, all that kind of stuff. I use their plate carriers now for our fitness and for the subject of this episode of the podcast. We're also brought to you by Gatorz Eyewear, real high-speed eyewear. Head on over to the link in the description below and check them out. We're also brought to you by Thorne Research, makers of some of the best supplements on the planet. Why? Because what's on the outside of the bottle is on the inside of the bottle, and I use their products every single day. And finally, we're brought to you by RDX Sports, makers of some of the best combat sports and sports equipment on the planet. All right. Hey, so that's out of the way. Welcome to the show. I am gassed. I am so tired right now. I actually think my wife was talking to me. I think maybe we came down with a little something or other, like a bug. But give me a second. I'm going to have a sip of this coffee. Peter Madeira, this is for you. And we are going to talk about, hold on, let me pull out the prop. Vests and weights. So weighted vests. That was a really ridiculous way to say it. This, of course, is my Condor, shameless plug, phalanx that I've been using. Really great plate carrier. And for those of you who don't know, so a plate carrier is basically exactly what it says. It carries plates. It carries those plates on your body. What are those plates? Normally those plates are bulletproof plates. I'm trying to think what's the exact tack plates. They're called something. But anyways, the bulletproof in the bulletproof vest. That's what they carry. But they come without that. You have to buy that separately. So you get the plate carrier, which is made of nylon, and you put it on. What some really ingenious people came up with probably over a decade ago, is that originally the body armor plates, that's what it is, body armor plates. So body armor plates originally, back in the day when I was in the Navy, they were steel. They were steel plates, and you'd insert them in your vest. And it was this big wraparound vest, and these steel plates went inside. And then it became Kevlar, different materials were used, lighter materials and all this stuff. So all these metal plates were kind of tossed to the side. Well, some ingenious prick basically said, hey, moving around, because in the past you would only put them on for specific missions. You would only put the bulletproof vests, point blank were the ones that we had. You would only put these vests on, this body armor on, for specific missions. If you were patrolling in the woods or, sitting in an ambush, you wouldn't put it on. But when you did put it on, because you weren't training in it all the time, this is, decades ago, when you weren't putting it on all the time and you'd go to put it on, it was incredibly heavy, cumbersome to move in. So some ingenious person decided, hey, why don't we take these, when we moved over to plate carriers, which is what I just showed you, probably about 15 years ago, when we moved over to those, somebody said, hey, we got all these old steel plates. Why don't we throw these in and practice with them? They weigh more than the body armor plates, the Kevlar plates, and we'll just be that much stronger, when we actually go into the fight. And since then, they've now made it into the civilian marketplace, and they're being used for fitness. And it's one of the tools that I use, both personally and for individuals that I'm training. Now, I did, and this is another shameless plug, I wrote an article on the website about using a weight vest, using a weighted vest. And the title of that article, which you can find on the website under articles, is Take a Walk with a Weight Vest. And on it, I talk about, all the physiological benefits, all of the, basically I take the stand or the position that, aerobic exercise is something that a lot of people don't want to do. It's something that can be difficult to do, even if you're at a heavier weight. So let's say you're a person who's trying to lose weight. Let's say you're a person who, is 10, 20, 50, 100 pounds overweight. Not a big deal. Can't do aerobics. So what? But what you can do is you can put on this vest, and it does something that's called, in physiology, exercise physiology, putting you under load. So basically what putting you under load is, and I'm going to simply explain it. Hold on. I'm going to have a sip of coffee. So I'm going to give you an example that you can actually understand. So let's say you have a car, and let's say you get 25 miles to the gallon. Okay. You have a pickup truck, really nice pickup truck. You get 25 miles to the gallon. So then you decide, hey, I love this pickup truck, but I want to redo the outdoor patio. Okay. So let's go over to Home Depot, and I just put $25, I only have 2 gallons left. So I have a gallon to get us there and a gallon to get us back. So you get 25 miles to the gallon. You go to Home Depot, boom, boom, boom. All right. You load up the truck, and then you try to drive back. On the way back, you realize you're running out of gas. Okay. Of course you're running out of gas. Why? Because your car only gets 25 miles to the gallon unloaded. Once it's loaded, the car has to do more work. You see what I'm saying? So it has to use more resources, gas, in order to push this heavier load the same distance. That's the idea behind a weight vest in exercise. Is if you're looking to lose weight, one of the things that it does is it increases metabolic activity. What's metabolic activity? It is the use of energy systems in your body. Energy systems can be anything from glucose, which is the sugar that's found in your body and your blood and muscles and liver. But it's also fats, adipose tissue. That's the clinical word for fats, adipose. And when you're doing aerobic exercise, okay, So aerobic exercise is unique. It is unique in the sense that it's going to use the sugar from your body, the glucose. And I'm simplifying this. If anyone who's a physiologist is listening to this and going, oh, but what about the Krebs cycle, blah, 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 all that stuff, stop. I am explaining this so that everyone in the class can understand. Don't be a jerk. So, but basically, if you're doing non-aerobic activity, in general, it pulls from the sugars in your body, okay, for fuel. If you are doing aerobic activity, that shifts over. You're still using some sugars for activity because the brain only uses blood sugar, but it'll start to use adipose tissue. It'll start to burn fat. And what's also interesting, and this is where I get my reading goggles. Give me 1 second. So there is an article titled, Does Weighted Vest Use During Weight Loss Influence Long-Term Weight Loss Maintenance? And it is a pilot study in older adults living with obesity and osteoarthritis. And I'm going to tell you why that's important after the osteoarthritis part. So Carson DeLong, Barbara J. Nicholas, Daniel P. Beavers, Jason Fanning, and Kristen M. Beavers found that among older adults who wore a weighted vest during caloric restriction, that's limiting how much you eat, initial weight loss was better preserved at 24 months, 2 years later, which may be due to preserved resting metabolic rate. And I wrote, what this study suggests is that the extra effort that you put into moving through space with extra weight that you wouldn't routinely normally carry, increases your metabolism. But not only does it do it when you're wearing the vest, but this metabolic effect, this fat burning effect, and I'm paraphrasing, continues even after you've taken the vest off. And so that's really profound and great freaking news for people who are overweight. And individuals who have osteoarthritis. So osteoarthritis might inhibit you from being able to do high intensity aerobic exercise. And there is such a thing as high intensity aerobic exercise and low intensity aerobic exercise. And it's not outlined right now, from what I've seen in the literature. It's not outlined as high intensity and low intensity. I am really thirsty today. But I did say I was under the weather, and one of those is probably dehydration from not feeling good. But so for me, and the way I describe it to people that I work with, is high intensity aerobic exercise is going to be, going out and doing a steady state run, something that elevates your heart rate up into the higher range. Okay. So 10, 12-minute mile, I would say that's a higher intensity aerobic type of exercise. Now, a lower intensity aerobic exercise would be hiking, would be a road march, would be a weighted vest walk. All of those are going to elevate the heart rate because there's work being done. It's work walking around with that vest. It is work that your body is not necessarily used to. Your body's not used to walking around with an extra 20 pounds on itself. You know what I mean? And I actually like the weight vest because of the distribution of weight versus putting on a heavier rucksack in order to train in the same mode, right? And I'm going to explain why. So rucksacks are good. And if you are going into some type of selection in the military, or honestly, it's going to happen if you're going to boot camp too. So you're going to need to get comfortable with some type of backpack rucksack. But it takes the body out of its biomechanical good zone. That is the worst phrasing. So basically your body, when you walk, is supposed to walk a specific way. If you put on a backpack, you're going to lean a little bit forward. Your body's going to come a little bit forward. That's going to put stress on the obliques, your what we kind of call your lower back and side muscles. It's going to put a lot of strain on your hamstrings as you're leaning forward and trying to keep that weight upright. It's just not ideal. You can walk a lot more naturally if you are walking with a weight vest or a plate carrier that evenly distributes the weight in the front and in the back. And that's really important because you'll gas yourself. It's easy to become tired and get those you get strap bite from a rucksack. I know where you've got these, just it looks like I've come home after being in the field for a couple days and my wife has been like, oh my God, were you tortured? No. Well, yes, but no. So yeah, you got to be really careful with that. But there are so many benefits to it. And if you have difficulty, if you have osteoarthritis, if you have problems with your knees, if your knees and ankles are weak due to the fact that you haven't been exercising your hip joints and the muscles that interact with your hip joints, a weight vest is going to be less intrusive and less painful for you to use. Now, if you're overweight and you do have weak ankles and knees because of a lack of strength and mobility in your hips, that's actually something that's really important. That's an important key. Most people with knee issues, and most people with ankle issues, most people with foot issues, it all stems right back up into your hip joint complex, and deficiencies and dysfunctions in that little chain of muscles and joints, because it's a whole long chain, and you can protect that chain by exercising correctly. And that's why I think a weight vest is amazing for individuals who want to lose weight, and they just don't have the physical capabilities of doing an aerobic exercise that would burn fat. This is the perfect aerobic exercise. And I've got a little cheat code for it, because it is actually, I do it 4 times a week and I do a mile. I do it 4 to 5 times a week, but I try to make sure I do it 4 times. And sometimes I'm just, I want to go back down, or I just get this bug where I just want to get out of the house. And it's a really nice way to clear your mind. So I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to give you a little insider tip on what I do with my weight vest. And it's so easy, and it's something that I've given to, I actually sent 2 vests down to my brother and my sister-in-law, his wife, and they're going to start going. But hold on, let me take another sip and I'll explain this to you. All right, so this is what you do first. You, of course, put on the vest. Then you go to a place that is measured out 96 to 100 feet. Okay, you can just arbitrarily pick 100 feet. That'll be fine. And then you put a cone at one end of 100 and the other end of 100. And then you go to one end, which is your non-counting end. That's the end you are not going to be counting your back and forths. Okay. And you go there, which is the cone, and then you walk that 100 feet to the other cone. Then you walk back to the other cone and back to the cone again. That is one. And I'm grabbing the vest. You get yourself one of these little Ranger counting beads, okay, these pace counters, and you pull one of them up. Boom. You have just done 1.5. And why is the half important? Because of those 100, the 96 feet times 55 is 1 mile. Okay. So what's half of that? 27.5. So you have to add on a half of a back and forth. So you start at the opposite end and then you walk to the beginning and then you don't count that one. And then you go boom, back and forth. And that's one. And you count up until you get to 27 on this. Okay. You can do that half lap at the beginning. I do it at the beginning just because it's easier. But you can do it. You can do 20, count 27, start at the cone, walk down to the other end, come back. That's one. And then add that half lap onto the end of it. But you do that 27.5 times and you've done a mile. Now, 100 feet's not that big. 100 feet, you can measure that out on the sidewalk. You can measure that out in the road, in your neighborhood. You can measure that out in your backyard. But the important thing is you can make a little loop in your backyard if you wanted to, or you could pick 2 trees to go back and forth between. You go to one tree, go around it, come back, go around that one, keep going, keep going. The reason why I love this little 1 miler is because it's too short and too easy to just blow off. And it's so good to do. And one of the things that I like to do is I like to put on my headphones and tuck my iPod and phone into the little sleeve and in the front of the vest. And I go out there and come up with business ideas, t-shirt designs, resolve issues I'm having that day with other people, all that stuff. It is the perfect way to get some physical meditation. There are so many health benefits to walking around with a weight vest. And I'm telling you, you only need 100 feet and you can enjoy those benefits too. Yeah, I love it. I can attest to it. I live it. You should live it too. It's amazing. It's a great way to find your freedom, which is our brand new slogan, which is the Sea and Land Fitness. It's our brand new slogan, find your freedom. And first you find freedom up here, and then you find freedom with your body. And we're going to get people out and we're going to get them finding their freedom. That is basically, it encapsulates everything that we're about. And we're going to be putting out a Finding Your Freedom shirt. We'll probably be doing a patch, which you will be able to put on your weight vest. But yeah, that's the purpose of why we do all this, why the weight vest is so important to us, why this exercise is so important to us. So there you go. Find your freedom. All right, guys, that is all I've got for you guys. Again, This podcast is brought to you by Sea and Land Fitness. Go to the website, www.sandlfit.com. That's www.sandlfit.com. And check out all the new t-shirt designs we got. We got a ton of really, really, really great stuff. We got new hats. These new hats with the honey badger flash on the side. So check it out. Pick yourself up one. We've also got this same design on a beanie. A couple more weeks of winter, so you're going to need something on your head. So head on over there, check it out, pick something up, or read the articles, or, you know, check out the newsletter, old editions of the newsletter, all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of fun stuff on our website. We are also brought to you by Condor Outdoor. We are so happy to be sponsored by Condor. I've used their stuff for years when I was in the military, and now after I'm out of the military, and it is a pleasure to bring that stuff to you. Check the link in the description below. We're also brought to you by Gatorz Eyewear. Just super high speed. You've seen them on the show, Navy SEALs. It is just some of the best eyewear. It's not just tactical, it's great eyewear, active eyewear. It is phenomenal. It's tremendous. You got to check it out. Hit the link in the description below. We're also brought to you by Thorne Research. What did I say? What's on the outside of the bottle is on the inside of the bottle. That's why I use it every day. I use their creatine. I use their daily vitamin. I use this one for phytoprofen, which is for skin. It's an antioxidant. It just makes me feel good. I also use their turmeric, all of it. So head down to the link in the description below. I have a dispensary on their website, so you can get 10% off anything that I carry in my store on their website. But if there's anything you want in there, just let me know and I'll put it in. Just send me a message, send me an email, let me know. Finally, we're brought to you by RDX Sports, makers of some of the best combat sports equipment on the planet. I use their boxing gloves for Muay Thai, their pads, you can see them in the back, their focus pad mitts, you can see them over my other shoulder if you're watching on YouTube. Great stuff, great prices, and I can offer you 10% off at their website. Use the link in the description below and the code in your cart, and you'll get 10% off. All right, that's all I got for you guys. Hey, later, honey badgers. Honey Badger Actual out.